This is Seawolves. Storm? Or not.
Happy Monday, Seawolves. It's a pretty soggy beginning to the third week of classes, but we'll get back to that in a minute. Let me remind you that this is a co-production between the students of the School of Communication and Journalism and their brothers and sisters at the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences. With some joy, I watched the snow melting away this weekend, and because we made friends with so many meteorologists, I was prepared for our inclement weather. So the only thing which was unusual for me was finding a sports coat to wear to school today. This isn't usually how I would dress for classes. Now, let's see if our weathercaster today is dressed appropriately for the weather. Nicole?
Thanks, Ray. As you can see, it is cold, it is dark, and it is wet out here. Definitely grab your umbrellas because we're going to see some scattered showers throughout the day. Additionally, we're going to have some wind today around 5 miles per hour, so not too windy, but it's still going to be really cold. We're going to have a low of 32, so about freezing, and a high of 39. So it's not going to get too warm today. So definitely bundle up and grab your umbrellas, grab your rain boots. It's going to be a cold, wet day today. That's all we have for you today for the one day. Stay tuned for the 7-day forecast later in our program. Back to you in the studio.
It was February 6, 1952. A young Elizabeth was on a royal tour in Kenya when her father, King George VI, suddenly died.
The grievous news of her father's death reached the young queen, now aged 25, at this lodge in the highlands of East Africa. She and her husband returned immediately to London.
In the 7 decades since, she's overseen the transition from Britain's imperial past to a more modern monarchy and guided her country through 14 prime ministers.
That if we remain united and resolute, then we will overcome it.
Her coronation in 1953 became the first major international event broadcast live on TV, a burst of pageantry in a dreary, post-World War II Britain that thrust the young queen into a position of privilege.
That my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service.
Polls suggest Queen Elizabeth remains really popular across the United Kingdom. Her people can't wait for the pandemic to be over so they can celebrate her Platinum Jubilee with stamps and souvenirs, and more than a few pints of beer across the day festival of the Queen in June. Maybe I could join some of my family that still live over there. I know that some of my British cousins watching the Queen is like a sport. I guess it's better than soccer hooliganism. To find out what's going on in our sports world, let's turn to our Sports Storm team today, led by Jake Basile.
Thanks, Ray. Last month, there was a big announcement. Stony Brook Athletics went from America East to the CAA. Then came a bombshell of nastiness from the America East. They ruled that Stony Brook was barred from competing within the America East Championships. That means no chance at March Madness for the Seawolves. That's particularly galling in a year where the women's Seawolves are tearing up the America East. In reaction to the America East flagrant foul, Athletic Director Sean Helbron condemned the decision as punishing student athletes. Stony Brook plans to review all options in addressing this. I personally would call it unsportsmanlike conduct. It was night and day between the men and women's basketball teams this week. The men's team endured back-to-back losses for the first time since the beginning of the season. The offense could not find its rhythm, combining for only 123 points versus Binghamton and the New Jersey Institute of Technology. The lone bright spot was Tyler Stevenson Moore, breaking his career high with 15 points. The men will take on New Hampshire tonight at Island Federal Arena. The women's basketball team extended their winning streak to 9, improving to 19-2 on the season. A narrow win against Binghamton was followed by a hammering of the Highlanders from NJIT. Senior Anastasia Warren, better known as Annie Buckets, led the way with 18 points in a 76-38 thumping. Next on the schedule is UMass Lowell, where the Seawolves will travel to take on the Riverhawks. On a weekend where the ice cleared on Long Island, the Seawolves skaters traveled to Rhode Island. It was their final road trip of the season. Stony Brook stormed out of the gate with a 4-goal first period in Friday's match. Dominating Game 1 with a 7-1 win, Saturday's 1-0 loss stunned the Seawolves. They will take on Drexel Friday in Hauppauge before conference playoffs start. With a win, they'll clinch first in their division. Moving on to pros, and quite literally pro, the NFL Pro Bowl was yesterday, which means we're only 1 week away from the Super Bowl. between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams. Be sure to get your Super Bowl boxes in, prep the snacks, and maybe even place a few bets if you're of age. I know I'll be cheering on the Bengals, and I might put a few bucks on them too. Who do you have, Ray?
I really don't have a favorite between the two, but I'm really looking forward to the commercials. Maybe I can learn some creative editing techniques. And the halftime show is always very exciting too. Speaking of exciting, what's this week's weather roller coaster looking like? Our meteorologist Sam Lankowitz has all the details.
Thanks, Ray. Well, it's a rainy Monday here at Stony Brook. Showers will be continuing on and off throughout the day. We have a high temp of 39 degrees and a low of 32 degrees. Tuesday morning, we will have a mixed snow, rain, precipitation before 7 a.m., but you can expect little to no ice accumulation for your morning commute. Wednesday, we have a high-pressure system moving over the region, bringing some dry weather. We can expect a high of 39 degrees and a low of 30 overnight into Thursday. Thursday, that dry weather will remain with a high of 44 and a low of 28. And Friday, will be mostly sunny Friday with a weak low-pressure system moving in, so we'll have some more moisture, so maybe overnight we'll see a few snowflakes and some rain mixing into Saturday. Saturday, we have a high of 44 and a low of 27. Mild temperatures will remain into Sunday with a 35 high temperature and a 21-degree low temperature. Back to you, Ray.
Thanks, Sam. Warm weather next week, huh? I guess there's no excuse for someone not to buy Valentine's Day presents, right? But 40s is not exactly beach temperature. That's still pretty chilly weather. February does have its challenges. For a hint of one very wet solution to February's weather woes, we turn to a report from Chris Camilla.
During the brutal weeks of February cold, the nation stocks up on essentials, cozy clothes, heated appliances, and plenty of hot cuisine. One particular piece of food that remains a classic comfort is one that is enjoyed not just during winter, but most any time of the year.
On commercials, like people coming home from like a cold night, just like a nice warm bowl of soup. It's like kind of comforting in a way.
Throughout Stony Brook University and across the nation, soup is still a highly sought-after winter food due to its convenience and widespread variety, such as Japanese noodle soup, also known as ramen, remaining an undefeated ally of college students across the world.
I love these ramens because I can put hot water and just wait 3 minutes and it's ready.
Meanwhile, some have controversial ideas about what technically qualifies a food with the label.
Coffee is soup. You put coffee beans in hot water and you make soup. Coffee is literally bean soup.
So no matter the temperature or time of year, sometimes one just has to fall back on the classic comfort of a good bowl of soup.
From Stony Brook, I'm Chris Camella.
Personally, I detest soup. It's just anything to be done with it. It's better to be filled in a swimming pool, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe it's used to melt ice on an icy sidewalk. Speaking of ice, a very clever photographer ventured out to a remote island in Siberia, a long swim away from Alaska and the Bering Strait, to visit an abandoned weather station. More than a picturesque buildings greeted him, he found bears, not lions and tigers, but polar bears. All of us New Yorkers know that neighborhoods change. When the Russian meteorologists quit this far outpost, who moved in? Bears, polar bears. Clearly, these bears wanted shelter more than they wanted food. After all, they didn't eat the photographer. They looked happy in their new digs. However, I prefer that the polar bears in Central Park, and I prefer to be in a place that's warm and sunny. Maybe I can't compete with the photogenic appeal of bears, so I'll wrap up this show right here, reminding you that stay tuned next week for Seawolves Storm or Not. I'm Reyes Wilson. Have a good week, Seawolves.